And that's what I was saying about my boy Draco incident. You can only be so mad at these people for doing what they did. I don't with the who did it, but if you ton them up back to back and they catch you, they handling business. You been challenging me to a duo, and it's up because that's my homeboy, but it's like then when it happens, you can't be mad, but you can handle business. You can't be mad, you can't put your feelings into that shit because little bro kept on taunting these niggas. I don't have a heart for motherfuckers who taunt and then get what they got coming. And I'm not saying that for Draco, but I'm saying that for 6ix9ine. Like Draco, you stood on your business like a man. You was fighting, you didn't see the knife cuz on 6-0. It was a terrible night in LA. You get what I'm saying? But at least he stood on what he stood on and he went out for it. You get what I'm saying? He didn't change his mind, he didn't run, he didn't do none of that. I don't think you get a Purple Heart when you die, but he definitely get, you know what I'm saying, a real nigga award, I guess, if that was what it was worth.
YG was just detained in connection with a murder. And if you don't know what that means yet, you need to keep watching because this did not come out of nowhere. Investigators have been quietly building this case for years. This story goes back to December 2021, and the biggest name in West Coast rap is now at the center of hip-hop's most haunting, unsolved murder. To understand everything that followed, you have to understand who Daryl Caldwell was. The world knew him as Draco the Ruler. Born and raised in South Central Los Angeles, he came up in one of the most competitive rap environments in the country and found a way to stand completely apart from it. A subdued, paranoid, quietly menacing cadence he called nervous music. Critics ranked him among the most technically gifted lyricists to ever come out of LA. He'd collaborated with Drake, 003, Greedo, and Peasy, and before his commercial breakthrough fully arrived, he'd already beaten the justice system once, spending nearly 2 years in county jail fighting a murder conspiracy case that collapsed after a hung jury. He walked out of that looking untouchable, a genuine cult following building around him, his real commercial moment finally arriving. He was 28. YG had been a defining force in LA rap for a decade before that night, his 2014 debut pushing him into the national spotlight and turning him into one of the most recognizable names in West Coast hip-hop, commanding 6-figure performance fees. On December 18, 2021, both men were booked on the same bill, YG headlining the Once Upon a Time in LA Festival at Bank of California Stadium, Drakeo also on the lineup. That single detail is what turned a concert into the scene of a murder. The festival was stacked with legends: Snoop, 50 Cent, Ice Cube, meant to be a celebration of LA hip-hop history. Drakeo arrived backstage to prepare for his set just after 10 p.m. According to people present that night, including his mother, Darlene Cornell, a massive group, she estimated between 40 and 60 people, rushed the backstage area around the same time YG's entourage arrived. Sources told journalist Jeff Weiss that a caravan of vehicles linked to YG's camp had pulled up moments after Draco made his entrance. What followed wasn't a fight between individuals. A private investigator later working the wrongful death case counted 113 people attacking a group of 7. Drakeo was stabbed in the neck. He died the next morning, December 19, 2021, at 28 years old. The investigation was immediately complicated by a wall of silence. Witnesses who'd been backstage that night weren't cooperating. Understandable, given the size and nature of the group involved and what talking could mean for anyone who did. So investigators turned to what they could control: surveillance footage from the stadium, cell phone video that had circulated online, cell tower data, and forensic evidence from the scene. The California Highway Patrol eventually took over as lead agency, spending years reconstructing the backstage corridor frame by frame, while also exploring a possible connection to the killing of Compton rapper Slim 400 just 10 days earlier. The fact that CHP has remained the lead agency more than 4 years later says a lot about what they believe the evidence ultimately supports. Drakeo's mother was one of the few people who spoke openly and consistently about what she believed happened. She told Rolling Stone she was certain her son's death wasn't random, that getting 40 to 60 people backstage at a major festival simultaneously took real planning. In 2022, she filed a $20 million wrongful death lawsuit against Live Nation and the festival's promoters, alleging they failed to prevent the murder by letting an enormous, unauthorized group into the backstage area without adequate screening or security response. That lawsuit is still pending, running as a parallel track that has kept discovery moving even during stretches when the criminal case produced no visible developments publicly. To understand why YG's name kept surfacing, you have to understand the relationship between the two artists before that night. This wasn't two strangers who happened to share a bill. There was documented public tension rooted in territorial dynamics and competitive rivalry, the kind California rap has always carried beneath the surface. YG had built his name representing Compton street rap with a history attached to it. Drakeo emerged from a different corner of that same world, confident in a way that landed as a challenge to the existing hierarchy, and reports of dismissive comments circulating between their camps in the months before the festival were noted by people following the scene closely. It wasn't hidden. It was known. From the earliest days after the murder, online commentators and podcasts covering hip-hop crime kept pointing at YG, his entourage's arrival timing, the alleged caravan, the prior tension between camps. His associate K7 went on Instagram Live within days of the killing and said plainly that YG had set the whole thing up, that he'd seen Draco taking his spot and made a move to stop it. None of that came from law enforcement directly, but it shaped the public conversation for years and ensured YG's name never left the discussion, no matter how many times official sources declined to confirm any connection. YG himself stayed largely silent on the topic for nearly 5 years, until June 19, 2026, just over a month before a search warrant hit his Burbank property, when he released his album The Gentleman's Club, including a track called We Know the Truth. The song was direct. He rapped that if he'd truly ordered someone's death, he'd be sitting in a cell, that he'd come to that festival to collect his performance fee, not to orchestrate violence, that he was preparing to take the stage when he heard something had happened backstage. He challenged anyone repeating the accusations to confront him directly. The video was shot partially in a jail setting, which fans read as symbolic, some as confidence from an innocent man, others as a calculated move to get ahead of something he already knew was coming. Given what happened 34 days later, that second red gained a lot of weight fast. On July 23, 2026, a Burbank PD SWAT unit, alongside California Highway Patrol investigators, executed a search warrant at a commercial property connected to YG at around 7 a.m. He was present and detained for questioning. A CHP official confirmed to TMZ he was not arrested, detained in connection with the warrant, then released. Investigators have not publicly named him a suspect or person of interest. What they were looking for inside that property hasn't been disclosed, but the scale of the operation, SWAT support, CHP as lead agency, a warrant tied directly to a figure discussed publicly in this case for years, sent an unmistakable signal that the investigation had reached a stage requiring direct action. The internet didn't wait for clarity. Within an hour, social media was flooded with speculation. Some of it accurate, plenty of it not. Claims he'd been arrested, claims charges had already been filed. People closer to YG pushed back, correctly pointing out that a search warrant isn't an indictment, that he was released without charges, and that 5 years of public pressure hadn't produced any official action against him. They argued that releasing a song directly addressing murder allegations a month before a raid is either the most reckless move in hip-hop history or genuine evidence he has nothing to hide. That debate played out across comment sections all day, while every major hip-hop outlet had the story up before 8 a.m. The timing made it even harder to look away from. YG was scheduled to face the game that same night in the Compton Forever vs. battle, one of the most anticipated West Coast events in years. He went from a SWAT search and hours of police questioning to performing in front of thousands of fans within the same 12 hours, either the move of a man with nothing to hide or a man who simply had no choice but to go through with it. As of now, no arrests have been made, no charges announced. CHP hasn't detailed what evidence was collected or where the investigation goes from here. The homicide case remains open. The wrongful death lawsuit keeps moving through civil court. None of that means the case has stalled. It means investigators are doing exactly what they've been doing since December 2021, building towards something they believe will hold. Draco the Ruler was killed in a mass attack at a major festival, in one of the most surveilled entertainment environments in Southern California, in front of hundreds of witnesses. This investigation never actually went cold the way the public assumed. It quietly expanded over 5 years into something that required a SWAT deployment in the summer of 2026. YG put his version on record in a song 1 month before that warrant dropped, then investigators showed up at his property anyway. He was released without charges. He's not a named suspect. But an agency doesn't commit resources at this scale, this many years into a case, unless they believe they're building towards something specific. What we do know for certain is that Darlene Cornell still doesn't have justice for her son. A man who mattered deeply to a generation of fans who believed his best music hadn't even been recorded yet. The lawsuit is still active. The investigation is still open, and July 23, 2026 wasn't the end of this story. It was a chapter. Whether the next move from investigators is another search or an actual arrest is the one question nobody outside that investigation can answer right now. But 5 years of quiet building just turned into a SWAT team showing up before sunrise, and that tells you something on its own. What are your thoughts on where this case goes next? Do you think charges are coming for YG? Drop it in the comments below.